Big men, or big men, or big men.
So when we talk about more than one person, we're going to need to pluralize that word. So walk tatna, one child. So walk tatna. Atla tatna. Two children. Atla tatna. But if we're counting non-human things, usually they don't change form, regardless of how many there are. So walk satsim. One desk. Satsim. No change in the form of the word satsim. So the good news about plurals is there are a lot fewer in Ichano than in English. The bad news is the ones that there are have to be memorized. And I'll also say something about the ending is. We'll see is. We're learning two words in this unit that use is a lot. One is katna, meaning child. It usually ends in is, katna is. Also the word katma, which means few, usually has is on it. Katme is. The ending is a diminutive ending. It appears on words that refer to small things or small amounts. And it's usually optional, but it's more often used than not used. So when in doubt, you should throw is in there if you're talking about something small. Let's look at some words that often take is. We'll say them without is and with is. Starting with the word for small. Anah means small, but it's usually in the form anah is.
Anah is
Small. Anah is.
Kapma
Means few. Kapme is. Is the form we usually hear it in. Kapme is. Tatna. Child. Tatne is. Small child. Tatna. Children. Tatne is. Small children. Now, if we're talking about Scarlett's still a small child, so we would call her Tatne is. Tatne is ma Scarlett. Scarlett's a small child. We could say, Ahokma Cynthia Tatne is Scarlett. Scarlett is Cynthia's child. Ahokma Cynthia Tatne is Scarlett. Yes?
I was just going to ask you to repeat it.
Okay. Ahokma Cynthia Tatne is Scarlett. But if we're talking about someone's adult child, so for example, Jolie's adult child is Stephanie, we could say, Ahokma Stephanie Tatna. Sorry, Ahokma Jolie Tatna Stephanie. Stephanie is Jolie's child, but she's not a small child anymore. She's just her, related to her as a child. Ahokma Jolie Stephanie Tatna. That's an explanation of is. So I think that you're probably all clear on the concept of the plural form. But if you're just learning these plural forms for the first time, or if you're not very familiar with them, you might find that when it comes time to say children, you can't remember how to say it, or men, or people. So before we go on, we're going to practice these plural forms, and that's exercise 2. So for exercise 2, I'm going to assign you into groups. And what you're going to do is similar to the last one. One partner will look at the paper. The other partner will try to do the exercise from memory. The testing partner will say a singular form like chakup, and then the partner being tested will repeat that singular form, chakup, and then give its plural form, chakupe. So your goal is to produce all of the forms chakup, chakupe, chutzma, chutzame, tatna, tatna, tatneis, tatneis, koas, kod, koas. You should do tatna both with is and without, because we need to do it both ways. If you can do that, go all the way through both directions with your partner, then do it again. The more times you do it, the smoother it'll be. So, Pam, will you work with Sheena, Heather and Brittany, Marnie and Kathleen, Moira and Cynthia, Shane and Darren, Allison and Giles, Caitlin and Zach, David, Mario, and Jolie. Have I missed anyone?
Okay.
All right, go ahead. I'll give you 5 minutes.
Allison? Allison?
Okay, there you go.
I'll come over there, Allison.
Hey guys, so I turned on my live streaming because it wasn't working on YouTube, but I've got the YouTube back up and running, and I just shared it on my Facebook. I'm gonna go practice now with Heather. So if you want to keep on following us, you can go to YouTube. See you guys soon. Choo. My audio was going. No, and so I missed the beginning part of the class. That's okay. It was the basic
Maybe you could just do it and say
I mean, I could have left that on. I got something to check. This is a much nicer quality.
I don't know. Okay, I'll see. Choco. First one. I guess so.
No.
Choco.
Okay.
Just leave out that
Is it no.
You're going to say just when this comes out.
Okay, wow.
I'll never forget Mom. This one, boy and sexy. Yeah, forgetting the long name. It is. Almost like you're whispering it. Very good. Top data. I wish I well, I always got it. Oh no, we do numbers at school all the time. I teach at Hopac and we do numbers all the time, so I'm pretty good at them. I can get them. I know it's weird too because if you give me a random number, like if you were to say like 47 and you want me to translate it, I really have to like I could get it, but I'd have to like I couldn't just like I really have to like figure it out. Yeah. Okay. First grade move. I don't know what grade it is. In knowledge, I doubt it exists. Level. Okay, so I've been there for 2 years, and then I taught in a house for 2 years.
I want to say Tottenham, but that's small.
And the counting is different. It's similar, but they added an extra word in houses.
Okay, so start again.
Oh, it's ish. So instead of ish, like for 11 is Caillou-ish. They say Caillou-ish. No, Caillou-ish. So they add in like the every time. It's a little different. All right. Let's see if you can remember them without me telling you. What's the man? Hen. Woman.
Yeah, no, good for you.
Women. Child. Children. People. Little child. Yeah, I was gonna ask. And then small child is.
I don't like how it's broken up like that.
I know,
And
and
small
that
children.
confuses me. Like, I would have to write it normally.
I want to say that Kelly loves it. Yes.
I don't use it.
It just gives you.
Does everyone know how the plural form is now? Ms. Guerra?
Hey, the way you have people written, it has those hyphens there. Are you just doing that to help separate it for us, or do we have to like?
No, the hyphens have nothing to do with pronunciation. The hyphens are only there to help you see the structure of the word.
Okay. Okay, so you just pronounce it.
Pronounce it as if the hyphens weren't there. I often use dashes to separate words into meaningful parts when I first introduce them to help you see how the structure of the words. But after you know the word, then I stop putting the dashes in. But you'll find as you're learning more and more words and you're combining root words and endings into different combinations, it will often help you to break words down like this, if only in your head. And if you can't do it in your head, then it can help to do it with dashes on paper. So we're making good progress tonight, maybe because this is a straightforward unit, I don't know. So I think we can finish with the basic part of this unit by our break, and then we can move on to the advanced part of the unit after the break.
Woohoo!
The basic part of the unit is just learning how to say how many of things there are. With the advanced part, we'll be using counting endings, especially the ending chi that we use to count days. But for now, let's start at section 7.5. Please find your seat wherever you find it comfortable for learning. And I'll give you new groups when it's time to practice.
Okay.
We're playing musical chairs.
Cool. Where's your wife teach? Oh, okay.
What are we doing now?
Oh, we're just gonna go on 7 fast.
Asking and saying how many of things there are is one of the things that can actually be easier in Nuu-chah-nulth than it is in English. In English, we ask how many using two words, how and many. But in Nuu-chah-nulth, there's a single root for that, which is ana. And to form a complete question, all we need is a mood ending. In this case, we'll use the question mood, anaha. How many are there? Anaha. Nuu-chah-nulth makes no distinction between many and much, or few and less. So ana can ask how many of a countable thing or of an uncountable thing there are. Are you raising your hand, David?
No, I just, thank goodness.
Okay. Gotcha.
Is ana on its own a word?
I don't know. It's never used by itself. It'll always have at least a question mood ending on it. There are also lots of words in Nuu-chah-nulth that sound like ana. There ana. There's another ana that means only, which is different from the ana that means how many. There's ani meaning really, and una meaning as much.
Well,
And it can get confusing.
And we were just doing small. I mean, the small is anach is very similar
That's
to.
another one of those ana words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anah, small. Ana, how many? Anaha, how many are there? Anah, small. How many boxes are there? Is our sentence. Anaha ahaks.
Anaha lahiks.
Anaha ahaks.
Anaha lahiks.
Atlakwatna ahaks.
Atlakwatna lahiks.
Atlakwatmahaks. The question Anahatlahaks uses the question mood. Which mood are we using in the answer Atlakwatmahaks? Real mood, right. Real mood is used for statements of fact. Question mood is for questions. Pretty straightforward, right? The real mood ending ma is sometimes pronounced with a long vowel, ma. So for example, to say there are four, we say muma. 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 To say it is big, we'll say ihma. 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 With other words, ma has a short vowel. Sawakma.
Sawakma.
There's one. Ayama.
Ayama.
There are many. What's the rule? When does ma have a short A and when does it have a long A? Martin?
Short with multiple syllables and long when there's one syllable or few syllables.
Right, it has to do with the length of its stem. Mu and I are only one syllable long. If the stem is only one syllable long, then the ending will have a long vowel. Mu ma, I ma. But if the stem is longer than one syllable, as from 2 to any number of syllables, then ma will have a short vowel. So wakma, ayama. And there are many, many endings in Nuchonal that follow this pattern. There's a rule of thumb that I shared with you last term. Does anyone remember it?
Short stem, long vowel, long stem, short vowel.
That's right.
Wait, one more time?
Short stem, long vowel. Long stem, short vowel.
Oh, okay.
The way I like to say it is short stem, long ending, long stem, short ending.
Okay.
Your way is fine too. Yeah, whatever helps you remember it. The ultimate purpose of this pattern is to make Nuchonal words sound good. This is part of what makes words sound good in Nuchonal. And what makes things sound good in one language is often a little different from what makes them sound good in another language. So this is part of Nuchonal words sounding good. So our next exercise is to ask how many of different things you see around you. So we're going to ask how many women, how many boxes, men, desks, books, children, chairs, pens and pencils, washrooms, and eating tables we see around us. Is that awesome?
Do you want us to work off that, or do you have paper for us?
We don't have that paper.
Oh, you don't have that paper?
No.
Oh, I have the handout right here. Please raise your hand if you need a handout. Oh, I gave you one, Allison.
No, it's
This is the first one.
There's 2 pages.
Oh, I see. I haven't given you a second handout yet.
Yeah.
Lisa's gonna pass that around.
I thought you were testing us.
I want you to memorize everything. Let's go through these words and make sure we know what they all mean. We'll say them and then we'll define Lutzma.
Lutzma. Woman.
Yeah, plural form?
Lutzma.
Aheks.
Aheks.
Meaning? Ox. Right, plural form? Aheks. Yep. Chakuk.
Chakuk.
Meaning?
Man.
Man. Plural form? Chakuk.
I've got one, Lisa. Thanks.
Meaning?
Thank you.
Desk. Sheena says writing desk, which is a more literal translation. Plural form? Paid sets in. Machahyak.
Machahyak.
Meaning? Book. Tatneis.
Ta'is.
Meaning? Little child. Plural form? Tatneis. Quasatus.
Quasetsus.
Chair. Kitsyak.
Kitsyak.
Meaning? Pen or pencil. Chishus. Bathroom, washroom. What sets in?
Awatsasun.
Meaning? Eating table. Yes. So we're gonna go through these, and partner A will ask partner B, how many of that are there? So for example, with the first word klutzma, you can ask anaha klutzma. And the other person will count. So atla katsta musucha nupu atpu atla kwas sawa kwas hayu ish sawa hayush atla hayu ish Atlama, Shutsameh. There are 12 women. Hayu, Ish, Atlama, Shutsameh. Anahat Lahaks. How many boxes are there? Anahat Lahaks. Maybe there aren't any. Wikid Matlahaks. There are no boxes. Wikid Matlahaks. How would we say there are many boxes? Did you say anima, Shane? Try again. Not ani. Aya.
Aya.
Two similar sounding words. Ayama.
Ayama.
Ayama Tlahaks.
Ayama.
There are many boxes. How could we say,
Really?
yeah, what does anima mean? It sure is, yeah. You're right. It can be confusing. There are lots of words that sound very similar. Anna, ani, una. In this case, we want, we're using anna, meaning how many, and aya, meaning many. How would we say there are few boxes?
Kama.
Mama, Tlahaks. There's a few boxes. Mama, Tlahaks. Or better, me isma, Tlahaks. Because ma refers to a small amount. With small amounts, we like to use is. Me isma, Tlahaks. There are a few boxes. There it is. All right. Any questions about this exercise? Yes, Mario?
Just a couple of observations. Could you say ayaha laheks?
Yes, that's fine too. Ayaha Tlahaks. Are there many boxes?
Because the anima, ayama. So anima, ayah.
Yeah, that makes grammatical sense. Anima, ayah, Tlahaks. Yep, there sure are a lot of boxes. Anima,
Trying to be very dramatic.
yes, that's very good. Those are all good sentences. Any other questions? Yes, Mario?
It doesn't, having two versions of few doesn't make sense to me. You just always use the is then because it's small, like it's a small number like few.
Yeah, you'll almost never hear kama without is.
Okay.
Yeah, same with anahis, you'll almost never hear it without the is.
And I
Which
also
other one,
noticed-
sir?
Anahis, little, anahis.
I also noticed that Lutzma and Chakuk, when we say how many men and women, in English we use the plural form, but in Channel we use singular form.
In Machanov, you can use either one.
Either one.
Yeah, so, Mario was pointing out, if we ask how many men are there, how many women are there, we have to use the plural form in English. It sounds weird to say how many man is there, right? But in Machanov, that's not weird. You can say it either way. You can say anahachakupeh, how many men are there? Or you can say anahachakuk, how many men are there? And they're both fine. That's an example of how Machanov is a little bit looser with its use of plurals than English is. English is quite strict. All right, here are your groups. Darren and Marnie, Moira and Zach, Mario and Giles, Cynthia and Sheena, Kathleen and Heather, Brittany and Allison, David and Shane, Caitlin and Pam. And I'll give you 8 minutes.
Heather, you got that?
Welcome to you.
Allison?
Oh, there he is. I thought you weren't here last week, so I thought you wasn't going to have that.
Did you guys get out on time?
You were late last week.
All right, man.
Nobody here to.
Enough.
Okay.
I'll ask. Anaha Chakuk. Is that 7? Atlapuma. Is that what you say? Atlakuma? You gotta start with a doozy.
There's a tough one there. I'm not gonna go there. I'll go with this one.
How many bathrooms?
Would I make up a number?
Like I just count the
One. Katsa. Sucha. Nukuma. Nukuma Kawatsasim.
Hold on.
Okay. Anaha Kutsma.
How many now? So
Oh, it didn't know many.
Atlakwa. Good, Mario. New channel stud. Okay. All right. Ayama. It's Ayama.
Oh, sorry.
You're right. That was tough. Hands. Kityak? Kityak.
Okay.
Atlak, Katsa, Nul, Sucha, Nuku. I counted those two, yeah. Oh, I didn't get that one. Atkuma, Kitsyak. Is there a? There's no. Oh, right, because it's not a person. Right. Okay. Anaha Kitsasin. Kitsasin. Yeah, just a regular table. Anaha Kitsasin.
There are many right here. So So there are many.
Good one. Shares. Holy smokes, Kate. Sawak. Sawak. Atla, Katsa, Mu, Sucha, Nupu, Atju, Atlakwa, Sawakwa, Hayu-ish Sawak, Hayu-ish Atla, Hayu-ish Katsa, Hayu-ish Mu, Hayu-ish Sucha, Haya-ish Nupu, Haya-ish Atku, Haya-ish.
Have you had enough time, or do you want 5 more minutes?
Atlakwa, Haya-ish Sawak, fucker. Sakits-ish Sawak. Sakits-ish Atla. Always mess up on 3. Katsa. Sakits-ish. Sakits-ish. Nupu. No. Sucha. Okay, we'll go with that. There are many. I could have just said there are many. I probably would have been smarter. Sakits-ish, Suchamu, Quatsasus, Suchama. Oh, there's Suchama. Right. Suchama. I should have said many. That would have been the smart reaction. So Ayama Quasasus. Okay. I'm going to ask you how many fibers there are on the carpet. Okay. Anaha Tatni is.
So we're my
multiple. Yeah.
Instead of making like more than I would
What's Chishu?
Yeah, exactly.
Sawakma, Chisuth.
And there was this one.
Okay. What's Tlahik's thoughts? Right. Oops. All right. Anaha Nachalthia. There we go.
So there's going to be one per division, and then we asked, can you make a mail doll? So she designed a mail doll. We're getting those.
Oh, we went to Sam. That's right.
I bought one.
So let's say there's 13 units.
Yeah.
So if we were going to say there are 13, right? So Ryan is
So these are two of the emails.
Yeah, it's a singular.
Slightly different. And the mail doll is designed for a little palette.
Right. Hayawishma.
So the numbers.
I think it's.
Well, I know that we are presenting this board meeting, but everything.
One question left.
It's not weak.
I'll bring one line along.
Oh, weak.
As soon as
Wikitma.
But they're gorgeous. Yeah, it's from design, so.
Tlahix. Tlahix.
She was saying you just
I know. Many Aya. Ayama.
Since there's
Ayama. Yeah. What was that? Kwasasus? Was that chairs? No. Kwasasus? I am not Kwasasus. It's a Kwasasus.
George, who said to Achman?
Shishu.
Who said to Achman? Who said to Achman?
Yeah, there's a few things to remember because there's the long A and then the hard Y.
Let's take a break for a while. Who said to
Stressful working with him. I just drew a blank when he was asking me questions.
That's an abstract noun.
I just went, I don't know.
Yeah, that was pressure up there.
That was. Oh my God.
Yeah, he made me count 26 chairs.
You didn't say
And
there
then he
are many.
reminded me,
Yeah.
and then he's like, haha, you should have
That's
just said
what he
many.
did. He's like, or you could say this.
Then you went, oh, you should have said that.
Flecko.
That would be, that would chocolate chip.
Oh, yeah.
Are we on our break?
Boys and girls.
If we had a word for.
Thought I had it.
I'm gonna ask them how to spell it. Yeah. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I know it's something along those lines.
4 times classroom.
Right.
But that's not an established group.
Those are hard.
Well, that's good. At least I can even look at some animated.
It's like her photo
Brittany Johnson, basically. Brittany Johnson.
I have to try it.
I was telling her where she's on her face.
I'm really proud of
First in them playing direct.
Oh, right, I opposed the decision.
What color is this?
Yeah.
I have no challenge. I don't know how
You were a baby? So at that time, we got some books that we just there was some funding left.
Angie said she got to.
And then $75-90 minutes.
it is still kind of tight for us, but one thing, yeah,
Really good. Really well for like a good 7 days.
Maybe a bit more than that. Maybe it was 10 days. And then I had to make Uber for the workshop. They feed you so much when they work there. They give you like breakfast and snacks.
And they do so like
Brownies, and then you kind of do it in Vegas style. Plus, I had vertigo. It's hard to work. And then you actually have vertigo. You can see
Yeah.
trying to get back on it. Just right off it. Yeah.
so they don't so
I just got some bars and get one gram of sugar and I think 9 grams of protein. So not like massive amount of protein, but still like pretty good. Maybe it's 16. I can't remember. But they're really yummy. And they taste kind of like a Rice Krispies texture. You know, like cookie bars are like this. It's like makes you feel like extra chubby. It's like you're eating thick carton. Where this one's like a Rice Krispies bar. It's like kind of chewy, crunchy, and like little puffs. And they're like soy. Anyway.
Because we shoot for teams, so sometimes, I mean,
One more is all natural ingredients.
biggest
So
guy.
it's like maple vapor. So
Heaviest.
it's actually like calories, but they're really they're filling and they're tasty. So you're like, and so I bought some I just bought a box of them because it's cheaper that way to buy a whole box. Not yet. Well, then I guess it's really protein bars this morning and I ate two last night.
Usually if there's
My
that
treats for one.
sure.
For two, it's like just like intense protein. Eat 3 of them in one day. There was leftover in the fridge.
After that, be
Sounds like my what? That you make nothing in the house and eating the junk. It's like that horse and I saw. I was like, there's nothing in the house, just ingredients.
Yeah.
There's nothing to eat, just ingredients. Like, because you have to make it, right?
I made a big bean salad out of just stuff I had in my cupboard. It was like this massive bowl. And I used like beans, corn, peas, chickpeas, quinoa, and just slices and stuff. And it made this massive bowl. I just cracked a bean salad and I just put it in my cupboard and jammed all the beans.
Yeah, you found it so
It sounds a lot like sugar. And then it sounds exactly like sugar. Same with shoes, and oranges, oranges, like that. I think they're just words. I think somebody said that they were just words that they made up because they sound like the English words.
Well, I like the word powder.
Moose moose?
Moose moose as well.
Moose moose. Aww. Moose moose.
Okay. It's great because when I'm deep, I want to go for so warm. It's like, how many minutes is a cow?
Yeah.
What's a cow's name?
And in math, like a tricycle has 3, quad has 4. How many wheels does quad have? Little tricks.
The word for apparently actually has because it was the way I was actually some of the French settlers.
Wow.
Adam would probably know. Last year I did
It's in June. but she's just having
To put garlic on it, there's no space.
And then
Okay, we're going to make them
it makes it easier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. What I've noticed with all people who back from at least
That's where it's just a small hole. It's not too big, big enough for gas. Coolers and more chairs.
Yeah. And Christian.
It has been for the last 2 years.
to make you dinner.
Good, drop the shit, put this in power, we're gonna learn some more.
But I've also been looking for full-time employment in town.
Boss, you're good.
Oh yeah, it's good money, and then I use the last week right when I got back. This year, that's our first group. My guys just a little bit.
How did Leland do today? Good. Good. He's been doing a lot better. Same with Neil. Noah has been like, today he just refused to write. Like when he wrote, he would do a writing activity, and Allison was right there to support him. And the thing he wrote was, "I don't want to do this." He's writing, but he just refused to do it. So he's like, I know. And I called home and I was like, "Is he okay? What's going on?" I talked to Dad. Usually Mom is fine, but there's something going on. I'm gonna check in with him tomorrow. See how he is.
It's Thursday, day 4. Moochie. Anachisas Atha. What day of the month is it? Anachisas Atha.
Think back to this morning, Miss Caitlin.
What?
Atlaquat.
Atlaquat. 8. Atlaquat Chisas. The 8th of the month. Atlaquat Chisas. Atma. It is now the 8th day of the month. Atlaquat Chisas. Atma. It is the 8th of February. Atlaquat Chisas Atlukma Rectim. Atlaquat Chisas Atlukma Rectim. Rectim is the name of February. It means the false moon because the herring will often make a false spawn around February when they're looking for where they're going to lay their eggs. And then around March is when the real spawn comes, which is why March is called Ayakim, spawning moon. Ayakim. So right now we're in Ayakim, the false moon. Ayakim. I'm using Uk to link the month to the day. Uk is one of the possessive endings in your channel. So it means something like of. The 8th of the month. Yes, Brittany?
The days of the week start on Monday?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And would you get us back into the?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We got kicked out.
Yeah, kicked out.
Yeah.
No more computer.
Yeah. Mario had an interesting question. You were working with Giles, is that right, Mario? And you're counting the chairs, and you counted 24 chairs, and you wanted to say Tzakates Ishmuma Kwasitzus, which is right. There are 24 chairs. Tzakates Ishmuma Kwasitzus. But they were wondering, because this is a complex number, Tzakates Ishmu 20 and 4. Does Ma still have a long vowel because it's no longer on a one syllable thing? And the answer is yes, Ma still has a long vowel because that rule that determines the length of the vowel in ma only sees its stem. It doesn't see anything past that. It only has to do with how an individual word sounds.
Is that 3 words? Sakits, ish is like ends. That's another
That's
word.
right. Yeah, this is a 4-word sentence.
Yeah.
Sakits, ish, muma, kwasitsus.
Yeah.
Is that?
The question I had was, is there a way to say, like, I kept wanting to say about 20, is there a way to say that in Sonic, like, Sakits?
Yeah, I don't know a way to say that, but I've often been in situations where I wanted to say that, and I sometimes use the word hisimus. And that's not an established word, but hisimus means in the vicinity of, like hisimus ma'asi, around the village. In the vicinity of. So since I don't know a better way to say that, I sometimes use that to mean an approximate number, but that's not approved. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put a question mark there.
That's not the thinking. Wouldn't there be some sort of mood ending instead of saying like Sakits ma, which is like a real mood? Would there be some other kind of mood, like something else that could kind of indicate possibility? Or I'm just kind of thinking French and Spanish.
Yes, you can do it that way. So yeah, there are lots of ways to indicate uncertainty in a channel. So we could replace the real mood with what I call the guessing mood, pacha. And we use pacha when we have some evidence to go on, but we're not sure. So you could say Sakits ish mu pacha kwasitsus. I guess there's 24 chairs from a brief glance, but I didn't count them. Sakits ish mu pacha kwasitsus. If you heard about this, or you heard some sketchy information, we could use the ending squeak. Squeak is another way of saying that there's some evidence that we can base our conclusion on, but we're not sure. There must have been 24 chairs based on what I know, but I'm not sure. Yeah, and that way I am sure about, so that would be the better strategy. Thanks, Brittany. Guess we can keep learning.
I was like, for what?
So now we're gonna do some advanced learning. This is the advanced section of the unit. We're gonna learn how to tell the day of the week and the day of the month, and also to count chunky objects. And in order to do these two things, we need these 3 endings: hem, chi, and ush. Hem is a counting ending for counting chunky things. Chi is a counting ending for counting days. Nupchi, Atchi, Hatsachit, Muchi. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Ash is a location ending. It refers to surfaces that are not as. Surfaces that are as are flat horizontal surfaces like this. Something's on a table like this, we would say hithas. It's on the table. Hithasma hawatsitzim. It's on the table. Hithasma hawatsitzim. Any surface that's not horizontal would end in ash. Hithas. Hithasma hinatsa. It's on the wall. Hithasma pipa. It's on the paper. Hithasma screen. It's on the screen.
Sorry, what were the other the first 2 endings again?
Him is for counting chunky objects. Chief is for counting days. Us, it refers to things that are on non-horizontal surfaces, and that includes the sun and moon, because from our point of view, the sun and moon look like they're on a screen. So the sky is considered a non-horizontal surface. The word for the sun or moon is hopas. Hopas. The root hop refers to chunky things. Ash refers to things on a non-horizontal surface. So the name for the sun or moon, hopas, literally means a round thing on a non-horizontal surface. And we can add ash to chi to refer to the calendar. The calendar is also a non-horizontal surface. So nupchi is 1 day, or the first day of the week, which is Monday. Nupchithas is the first day of the month. Nupchithas. And don't worry, we're going to go through all of that again. Yes, Allison?
Is this taken like from the calendar being like like we have a calendar on the wall, but like traditionally they wouldn't have had a calendar on the wall, but is it still because it's not on a flat surface, they still talk about it that way, or is there, or were these words made up because they're connected to a calendar which is on the wall?
I think it's probably based on the fact that Western calendars hang on the wall.
So they're kind of newer words then?
That's what I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know. So it's possible that this way of talking about days is older than contact, in which case maybe it refers to the sky instead of on the wall.
Okay.
And I don't know about that.
Sorry, I missed the kimch refers to.
Kimch is for counting round or chunky objects. All right, let's look at some examples. The advanced conversations, 3, 4, and 5, all involve chi, the suffix of counting days. Oh, before we get to that, let's practice the words in our advanced. Akak. 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 Nas.
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 Kathak-i-ah.
Kathak-i-ah.
Kathak-i-ah. This is one way of saying today. There are many ways to say today in your child. That's just one of them. Nupchi.
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 Akchi.
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 Katsachi.
Katsachi.
Katsachi. Muchi.
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 Suchachi.
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 Nupuchi.
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 Santi.
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 What language does Santi come from?
Santi.
And the northern dialects say Akpuchit for Sunday, but southern dialects say Santi for Sunday.
Nupchi.
Why nope? We'll get into that. Yes, but for now, that's good that you noticed that we say Nupchi for one day, not Tawachit.
Yeah. I think that's what now you're telling me later.
The short answer is because chief is a counting ending. With counting endings, we use nup instead of tsawa. With non-counting endings, we use tsawa. That's the short answer. All right, let's go through conversations 3, 4, and 5. There's some long, difficult words in these conversations, so you're not gonna learn them perfectly right now, but we can feel how they sound and start to consider what these big words mean. Starting in 3A, Anachit Wittashak.
Anachit Wittashak.
Hish.
Ahku.
Anachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Anachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Anachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Anachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Katsachit Wittashak.
Katsachit Wittashak.
Hish
ahku.
Katsachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Katsachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Katsachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Katsachit Wittashak. Hish ahku.
Anachit atha.
Anachit atha.
Anachit atha.
Anachit atha.
Literally, how many days is it now? That's one way to ask what day of the week is it. Aka nas.
Nas.
Literally, what day is it now? Aka nas.
Nas.
Because the hard end of nas comes after a vowel, we can clearly hear that it's a hard end. Aka nas.
Nas.
Nupchi akma.
Nupchi akma.
It's Monday now. Nupchi akma.
Nupchi akma.
Conversation 5. Anachisas atha.
Anachit atha.
Notice that 5A is just like 4A, except the only difference is that we've added the ending us in there. You see it? Anachisas atha.
Oh yeah.
Anachisas atha.
Anachit atha.
Aka atha.
Atha.
Nasuk.
Nasuk.
Hopas.
Hupas.
Aka'akha nasuk hopas.
Aka'akha nasuk hupas.
Aka'akha nasuk hopas.
Aka'akha nasuk hupas.
Nupchis. Nupchisas akma.
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 Ma mirtsu.
Ma miksu.
Ma mirtsu means older sibling, and it also means January. Nupchisas akma ma mirtsu.
Nupchisas akma.
Nupchisas akma ma mirtsu.
Nupchisas akma ma miksu.
So we're going to go through carefully and learn how to make sentences like this. So you don't need to understand everything at this point. Do you have any quick questions for now?
Hupas.
Where do you see hupas, the word in 5a, hupas?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is hupas?
It sounds like help or something, but did I miss
Are you thinking
it?
of hupi?
Yeah. Is it the moon?
Moon or sun?
Hupi means
Oh.
helping. Hupas is the sun. or-
5A for moon, I mean for month.
Is that somewhere else that I just didn't see it, or do you guys just notice?
Yeah.
I just. We might have written.
I know, but I was just wondering if it was written somewhere else.
Oh, sorry.
You guys all just knew. I was like, oh.
In the word for today, there's one I, but you make an E sound. And then in the makes, you make like an A sound when there's two I's. And then sometimes there's two I's and you make an E sound.
Mm.
So how do you know, is there any kind of rule that you know if you're reading like how that's going to sound?
Well, you don't have to know a rule if you pronounce Q correctly, because it's impossible to say E and the sound right next to each other, and the result is that the sound pulls the E down and turns it kind of an E. That's why it doesn't sound like a pure E in ma mirtsu, ma mirtsu. It starts out like an E, but then as we get close to the Q pulls the tongue down. Ma mirtsu, ma mirtsu.
Is the other one like an E sound because of the glottal stop or
Well,
in dakha
in
E-a in today?
kathakia,
Yeah, so that's an E sound, but it's only one I.
it's okay. So let's compare the long I in nupchis, the short I in kathakia, and the long I in ma mirtsu, which all sound a little different, right? So nupchis, the vowel in nupchis and the vowel in kathaki both sound like an E to you because you're an English speaker and you don't hear the difference in length.
Okay.
Kathaki is a short E.
Okay.
Nupchi has a long E.
Okay.
English speakers are very good at hearing differences in vowel quality, but very bad at hearing differences in vowel length.
Okay.
And Nuchanov is the opposite. Nuchanov speakers hear differences in length very subtly. E and E are different in length, and they're considered different vowels. It doesn't matter that E and E have the same quality. What matters is that they have different lengths. Also, the vowel in ma mirtsu has a different quality from the vowel in nupchi, because this E is being deformed by the Q. But that's not what matters. The quality is less important than the length. They're both long, therefore they're both long eyes. Nupchi, ma mirtsu.
Okay.
Last year for the Christmas concert, my kids were the sun. So we like.
Here's some examples of how we can use the counting endings pim and chi. Nuchanov is rich in word endings that are used to count different kinds of things. We use different endings for counting different kinds of objects, different kinds of abstract ideas. Pims and chis are two of the most useful, so that's why we're learning them first. Let's take a look at the sentences in 7. Atakwas pims ish. Wrong dialect. Yeah, I forgot to fix this. Let's put this into Barclay Sound dialect. Atakwas pimsma. There are 8. Atakwas pimsma. quasensus.
Quasensus.
Atlakwas kemma quasensus. There are 8 chairs. We could just as well say atlakwas quasensus. That's what we just learned how to do, right? Atlakwas quasensus. There are 8 chairs. But when we're counting things, we can optionally use kemp. Atlakwas kemma quasensus. There are cases where we have to use an ending like kemp. One of those is when we're counting dollars. Dollars are always counted with kemp. Nukemp, $1, Atkemp, $2, Katsakem, $3. When you're talking about dollars, you have to use kemp. For most other things, it's optional. Kemp is almost never used for counting living things. Some speakers will accept kemp on animals and maybe even babies, but not on full-grown people. But it can be used for almost anything else. Anything non-living generally works with kemp. It's preferred on things with a round or chunky shape, but that's also not required. So dollars historically were metal coins, which were round, and that's why they're counted with kemp.
So you actually call, that's what dollars are called? That's what money's called? Or
well, the word for money is tana.
Yeah, sorry.
But when we're counting money, we count it with kemp.
Okay.
So you could say, uyi is tana, give me money. Or you could say, uyi is nukkem, give me $1. Akushi is hayukum, lend me $10.
Wait, can you just say that again? Because I'm trying to process everything.
If we're talking about money, it's tana. But if we're counting money, we count it with kemp.
Because you wouldn't
say. The answer was, what was the answer when you said, or give me $1?
I said, uyi is, give me, nukkem, $1.
Yeah. That's why.
So, yeah. I have $2.
Yes. So it's like Kim means dollars and Tana means money.
Kind of, sort of. Well, I wouldn't put it that way, but I think you can think of it that way if you
want. You wouldn't say like Hayu Kim Tana. You wouldn't say give me $10.
You can, but it's redundant.
Okay.
So you could say that if you need to be absolutely clear, but normally you would just say hayukom. If you want to say $10, just hayukom. Hayukom, there are $10.
It's like saying there's an ATM machine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
And so is the suffix short or long? Ma or ma?
In hayukom, the suffix has a short vowel.
It seems like English slang where they just say, give me a tenner.
Is that your question, John?
Yeah. So Kimp counts as 2 syllables?
Well, hayukom is 2 syllables.
Oh, okay.
But you still need the real mood. It's on an ending that stands on its own. Counting.
The word hayukom could be used in lots of situations. Ka'a hayukom, lend me $10. Akushi is hayukom, lend me $10. This is just a case where, since this is a one-word sentence, we have 2 endings together. But hayukom is also a word. And the stem of kom is hayu, but the stem of ma is hayukom. So since the stem of ma is more than 1 syllable, the ma has a short vowel. Does that make sense? Here's an example of how we can use chi. Mu chi sa. 4 days I, hit, at, ahku. I'm here. I'm here for 4 days. Mu chi sa, hit, ahku. Notice I'm changing the dialect, which just involves a different mood in it. This is from Central dialect, which uses the strong mood, but we're speaking Barclay dialect, which uses the real mood. Muchi tahitafu, here for 4 days. Here.
Oh, our paper is here.
Muchi tah. Muchi tah. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
4 days, I muchi.
Okay, yeah, I get it. I was thinking
The ending,
I thought I was saying-
yeah, you're thinking like chichemhema, I'm okay. But the M of ma is only pronounced after a vowel. Or an M or an N, not after other consonants. Here's some more examples of how these two counting endings combine with different quantity words. They're shown here with the root ana, meaning how many, and the numbers 1 through 7. So let's pronounce the pimt words first. Anakim.
Anakim.
How many? Anakim.
Anakim.
Nupkim.
Nupkim.
1. Nupkim.
Nupkim.
Atkim.
Atkim.
Atzakim.
Katzakim. Katzakim.
Mukum.
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 Suchakim.
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 Nupukum.
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 Atpukum.
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 Now let's count days. Anachik.
Anachik.
How many days? Anachik.
Anachik.
Nupchi.
Nupchi.
Means 1 day or Monday. Nupchi.
Nupchi.
Akchi.
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 Katstachik.
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 Muchi.
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 Suchachik.
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 Nupuchik.
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 Atpuchik.
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 The numbers 1 through 6 plus chi can mean either a number of days or the name of a day of the week. Nupchit, atchit, katstachit, muchit, suchachit, nupuchit. Atpuchit only means for 7 days. If we refer to the day of Sunday, it's called Santi.
Santi.
So only 1 through days 1 through 6 have those ambiguous names. You'll notice some other patterns in how these endings are pronounced, right? Kimt is not always kimt, sometimes it's kum. Notice that? Also, the ending for days is sometimes chi and sometimes chit. What's the rule? When is it chi and when is it chit?
Syllables.
Right. That's right. Yeah, think of it in any way that makes it make sense to you, but it follows the same pattern as ma and lots of other endings. Chi has a long vowel if it comes after a 1-syllable stem, like nupchi, atchi, muchi. If it comes after a stem with 2 or more syllables, then it has a short vowel. Anachit, katstachit, suchachit, and so on. How about kim? Yes, Allison?
No, I was just gonna say, can you explain the kim?
Okay. When do we get kimt? When do we get kum? Does anyone see the pattern? What's the pattern, Mario?
Well, kumph is with like a use of a move.
Yep. Right. We get kum when it comes after a u. Mu kum, nupo kum, atpo kum. After any other sound, we get kim. And this is the same. This is the phenomenon of rounding. We saw this with mamukwa. I'm working. Mamuk ends in a plain K, but mamukwa, I'm working, has a round K. Roundable consonants, which are K, X, and Q, like to be round after a U if another vowel follows. But they can't be round before a U. They like to be round after U, but not before U. So what we have here is mu plus pimp. The Q is coming after a U, so it wants to be round, but it's not allowed to be round in this case, so the rounding goes onto the vowel and it's pronounced as a U. And if that seems a little complicated, don't worry about it. Just say these words lots of times, because again, these patterns have to do with what sounds good in your channel. And the more you say these words and get a feel for what sounds good in your channel, the more these patterns will make subconscious sense to you and you won't have to think about them.
Why do we say mamakwich? That's sing or say. Mamakwich,
We're not gonna practice using pimp very much tonight. I just want you to be able to recognize it when you see it. The main times we have to use pimp are when we're counting dollars and also months. For dollars and months, we have to use pimp. For other things, pimp is optional. But one useful thing about pimp is that it can make it obvious that we're counting the number of something. For now, we're going to focus on chit. So we want to be able to talk about the days of the week and the days of the month. In 9 and 10, I've taken apart some of the words in conversations 5 and 6 to show how they're made up. So when we ask what day of the week it is, I've given you 2 ways of asking it. Anachit atha, anachit atha, anachit atha, and akad hatnas. Akad hatnas. So let's break these down. Literally, anachit atha means how many days now is it? Anachit atha. Anachit atha. Akad hatnas literally means what now is it day? Akad hatnas. And the response, muchit atma.
Muchit atma.
Literally 4 days now it is. Muchit atma.
Muchit atma.
Muchit atma. The order of the endings is determined by how Nuchanov puts words together. These endings when these endings occur with each other, they always have to occur in this order. And there are very strong patterns here. For example, mood ending. If there's a mood ending on a word, it'll almost always be the last ending. Mood endings happen after most other endings. But chi is tightly bound to a quantity word. So chi will usually follow a number immediately after the number. And that's why chi is closer to the root than ma is. Any other questions about these words? Let's pretend that it's Monday. Akad hatnas. Akad hatnas. Nupchit atma. It's Monday. Nupchit atma. Okay, next day. Akad hatnas. What day is it now? Akad hatnas. Akchi atma. Akchi atma. It's Tuesday now. Akchi atma. True. Anachit atha. Anachit atha. What day is it now? How many days is it now? Anachit atha. Patsachit atma. Patsachit atma. It's Wednesday now. Patsachit atma. True. Anachit atha. Anachit atha. Muchit atma. It's Thursday now. Day 4. Muchit atma. Akad hatnas. What day is it now? Akad hatnas. Suchachit atma. Suchachit atma. Anachit atha. Nupuchit atma. It's day 6 now. Nupuchit atma. Anachit atha. Santi atma. It's Sunday now. Santi atma. No, we don't say Santi chit. We just say Santi atma. Santi atma. Santi atma. Okay, now, once you know how to do that, it's easy to talk about the days of the month because you just need to throw in one more ending, and that's the ending of. So the contribution of is that it says now we're talking about days on a non-horizontal surface, which is the calendar. Okay, so if I told you muchit atma, then I'm talking about the day of the week. It's Thursday, muchit atma. But if I throw in an muchit atma, that tells you I'm talking about the calendar now. So I mean it's the 4th day of the month. Let's break down these sentences. Anachithas atha. Literally, how many days on a non-horizontal surface now is it? Because on a non-horizontal surface is kind of long, I shorten that by calling it a screen. I call horizontal surfaces platforms and non-horizontal surfaces screens for short. So how many days on a screen now is it? Atlakwas chisas atma. It is the 8th of the month. Atlakwas chisas atma. Literally, 8 days on screen now it is. Atlakwas chisas atma. Here's another way to ask. Aka'at Nasuk Upas. Aka'at Nasuk Upas. So Nas day Upas month, and I'm also using the possessive ending uk. The possessive ending goes on the thing possessed. So the day is possessed by the month. It's a day of the month. Aka'at Nasuk Upas. Literally, what now is it day of month? Aka'at Nasuk Upas. The longest answer now, it is the 8th of February. Atlakwas chisas atlukma. Items, which is February. Atlakwas chisas atlukma. So now the challenge I'd like to give you is to turn to your partner, and you'll start just with the days of the week. Ask your partner, Anachis atha. What day is it? Anachis atha. And pretend it's Monday. Nupchis atma. And then go through the days. Akad atnas. What day is it now? Atchis atma. Anachis atha. What day is it now? Atsachis atma. If you can finish that, then you can try the days of the month. Yes, Allison?
I just wanted just a quick question. If what day of the month is it with the Nas Upa? Could you take the at out if you're talking about what day is it that we're going camping or something? Like what day is it of the month that we're going camping?
Yeah.
Would you just take the today part out of that sentence?
Yeah, I think you could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have about 4 minutes.
Okay, so you have 4 minutes to go through all 7 days of the week and all 31 days of the month. Go.
You ready for this?
Okay. Anachis atma.
Or we have it's not broken up funny.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Anachis atha. That's 4 days. So it can be 4 weeks.
Nuptius atma. Anachis atha.
Those are 2 days.
Atchis atma.
Oh, sorry. No, I was reading this one again, but I was asking you what the second day of the week was. So it's
Anachis
it's like, so I'm pretending it's Tuesday now. Anachis atha.
Katsachis atma.
Atlachis
Anachis atma.
Atlachis atha. Anachis atha.
Nuchis atma.
Now I ask you a question?
Sure.
Anachis atma.
Muchis atma. You hold up a number of the fingers of what day you want me to do. I'll answer you in the ones too. You gotta ask me questions. I can't hold up your finger. You gotta practice too.
Yeah, that's right. Anachis atha.
Nukchi Atma. You can ask that one again with another number.
Nupuchil.
Nukchi. Which? Atchi Atma.
Now we need to remember Sunday. Santa. Anachil Atma.
Yeah, keep on going. I'm gonna do the whole week.
Okay. So, you want me to do the whole week? Okay,
Yeah. Muchi Atma.
Yeah, because Chil is accounting and Santi isn't. Santi.
Sucha Chis Atma. Nukuchi Atma.
Adam, for Sunday, you don't need to put the county and the chil on the end of Santi. It's not Santi chil.
Santi Atma.
Santi Atma.
That's right.
Santi
Santi Atma.
Santi Atma. Yeah, you ready?
No, that's great.
Anachi Atma.
Almost.
Anachi Atma.
Oh, really?
Two. Want to do a day of the month? Anachif
Anachif Atha.
Choose a day.
Anachif Atma.
Hasikat and Johnny, we're done for now. Hasikat and Johnny. One question I got several times was when we say it's Sunday, Sante Atma, do we need a chief? And the answer is no, we don't. Because Santi is a name that can't be broken down. So it doesn't use the ending chit. Sante Atma, it is Sunday. George, what you're doing is very important. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time.
Stay here tonight. The chairs and everything.
Yeah, the chairs can stay here. If
I
you
like
can.
this.
It's not bad if we only have this many people.
Sorry?
We normally have all of these
Am I doing
chairs
well?
filled.
Yeah.
Because we have all of the rotating chairs and the theater
We've got some
chairs.
house guests at our place right now, actually. So,
If I could get help with
Head
the
back and
standing
sit down.
stacking chairs, though, that'd be great.